Welcome back to NC Realtors Redefined, the NC Realtors podcast. On this episode,
I'm Savannah Reagan, Education Director at NC Realtors, and I'm pleased to welcome today's guests, Tony Harrington and Renzo Bugnatto. Today, we're talking about why global real estate matters in every community across North Carolina, and why committees play an important role in helping realtors stay informed, connected, and prepared for an evolving marketplace. Tony and Renzo are two longtime leaders in the global real estate space who will share their experiences, the growth of local global initiatives across the state, and how realtors can get involved in their own communities.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Tony Harrington. I'm your past NC Realtors 2024 president, past chair of the North Carolina Realtors Global Network, and also the current chair of the Cape Fear Realtors Global Network. Renzo?
And I'm Renzo Bugnatto. I sit on the NC Global Committee as well as Cape Fear Global Network as vice chair. I'm also a residential sales agent in southeastern North Carolina and the south of Italy.
And today we're taking a slightly different approach. Rather than focusing on specific international transactions or even market trends, we're going to talk about why realtors should get involved on global initiatives at the local association level. And what's interesting is that Renzo and I are both from the local level. We're both chair and vice chair of our local association. So we thought it'd be fun to talk about why our members need to get engaged.
That's right, Tony. I think sometimes when people hear global, they immediately think about international buyers purchasing luxury properties. What's certainly part of it, but global is much broader. There's a lot of education that needs to occur and understanding, where people come from and the opportunities that lie both within our communities and in the global networks.
You're exactly correct. It's about understanding our local markets, your local market, the demographic changes, the international investment that we see coming into communities, the workforce trends, and of course, the economic drivers that shape our communities.
And both Tony and I have been involved in North Carolina Realtors Global for many years, especially Tony, and at a national level as well, Tony has been. And we thought we'd share how the sort of global efforts have gone and grown and why local engagement is so important.
So Renzo, let's start with a question that I think that we hear all the time. What is global and what does it actually mean for a realtor? Why should a realtor understand what global means?
I think many realtors assume global only applies if they're working directly with foreign buyers. The reality is that global affects nearly every market in North Carolina. People don't realize it. They just don't realize just how many global companies and international people we have.
Exactly. And of course, international companies are investing in our communities. The universities are attracting students from all around the world. And in fact, here in Wilmington, the University of North Carolina at Wilmington has more than 500 international students. And it's shocking to think that even a university system has staff that is charged solely to recruit international students abroad to come to these schools. And of course, we think about manufacturers are bringing workers and executives into local markets, and all of that impacts both the residential housing market as well as the commercial sector.
Yeah, and I think we need to bear in mind demographics are continuing to evolve. Many communities are becoming more diverse, creating greater opportunities for realtors who understand, cultural differences, ethnic differences, and are prepared to serve a broader client base and understand the needs of their clients.
So I think it's important, of course, that you see you don't have to sell property overseas to really benefit from understanding the global trends and why that's important for us and our local communities.
One thing I'm particularly proud of is how NC Realtors Global has evolved over the past 5 years, especially looking at international and diverse demographics.
Yeah, I remember when the state committee first started, there were only, it was really started from the Economic Development Committee. And in that first meeting, I remembered Andrew Bushnell saying, hey, look, we need to start a global program. And, it was amazing at that time that we only had a handful of realtors that really focused on international business or global opportunities. The awareness really was not there. And we only had one global counsel in the entire state, and that was from the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors.
Yeah, I think the other thing, if you look now, associations like Canopy are involved, Cape Fear Realty, Catawba, Johnson County, and of course, as you mentioned, Raleigh. But there are others, which includes, Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, are creating opportunities and helping with education and networking on I think the sort of global committee level, as well as the demographics and cultural differences that go along with it.
I think that was probably the most shocking thing that we've seen over the past couple of years is the fact that, we've gone from one really successful global council at Raleigh to, having a message from the state association talking about why it's important for us to focus on global and international and economic development. And because of those conversations and because of the years of us doing this, we realized quickly that the local association saw the value of it, and they started to really expand these local global councils. And it's just shocking to see that we've grown and have so many people now engaged in the conversation. The state committee provides leadership, resources, connections, but the local committees and networks help realtors understand really what global means in their specific markets. And I can say, really what a great job these associations are doing with education and programming.
Yeah, I think that's where the real value begins. Realtors can learn directly from those local economic developers, chambers of commerce, universities, business leaders, and international companies at a local level operating in their communities to really help service the sort of global efforts, and then obviously directly work with buyers or sellers in some cases.
Right, right. So now that we know what global means, let's talk a little bit about why our realtor members should become involved with their local global committee, council, or network.
I mean, to me, the first one is education. Education, not only about cultural differences, but education about a lot of things that are occurring within the global community and the world itself.
Renzo, that is the key thing is education. And real estate global is very much like all of the other specialities that we have in real estate. If you think about it, we as realtors, we practice in a lot of different areas. We may be specializing in seniors, we may be specializing in military relocation, we may be commercial, and all of these specialities have their own special training and education to understand and to create the network that you need to be able to work in that area. And I think that is really where our global committees are benefiting our members because they're bringing speakers and programs that really help us to understand the market trends, the cultural awareness, the foreign investment, and the international business activity that's happening. So I think education is absolutely key.
I would agree, Tony, but another reason I would also say is awareness. People aren't aware sometimes just how different some of our cultural differences are. Closings in America are very different from closings in Europe, and dealing with a buyer who sees it in a different light is something you have to bear in mind when assisting them at a local level.
Right. That awareness, many realtors don't realize that the amount of international activity that happens in our backyard. I mean, it's shocking when you hear the companies and the manufacturing facilities and the foreign-owned companies and even the workforce and recruitment, how that all influences the real estate demand. And all of this is available at your local chamber of commerce or even at your local association if you have a global local council.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think moving on to another reason to join and be involved with your global, committees is relationships, especially in a lot of the rest of the world. Relationships are key. You cannot get things done without those relationships with the buyers, the sellers, and having a team of professionals assisting you with that.
Exactly. Getting involved locally really creates connections with professionals who do work in economic development. higher education, workforce development, and of course, international business recruitment. I'll give you an example real quick. Like we said earlier, when we first started the global program and the economic development conversation, through those years, I mean, most of us who started that committee years ago, we didn't have really any formal education and awareness of economic development. And through the years, because we've gained so much connection and so much networking, many of us have had the opportunities to actually work on a local or state level in other further larger economic development groups. For example, here at Cape Fear Realtors, where you and I are, I served as a benefit of the New Hanover County organization. They allowed me to be able to serve on the Southeastern Economic Development Commission as a commissioner. And that was only because I had been and I had the awareness that we had done through NC Realtors and the global program and the economic development conversations. And now, since I've stepped away from that, we also now have other members who are in leadership at Cape Fear Realtors who are now doing that role on behalf of New Hanover County. So it is amazing when we think about the networking and the awareness that we have now that we've gotten more information and we're connected through it.
I would agree with you, Tony. I think relationships, networking are critical. It's not just about getting the referrals or trying to send a referral. It's about, creating long-term relationships that you can go back to and help develop, your own businesses, but also your local communities. And being involved in that, I think, as you said, is also not only an opportunity for realtors, but it's an opportunity for self-growth.
Exactly. And more importantly, local communities do help realtors become trusted advisors in our communities, and it helps us by understanding the factors that drive growth and investment in our communities.
I think the other thing is, I think realtors are listening today to see what's the easiest way to get started. They really want to know, how do I get involved?
I would say, Renzo, that start by getting involved with your local association, the global committee or council if one exists. How about you? What do you think?
I would agree. I think, attending meetings are always open to realtor members to join and come and visit and participate. There's other educational programs. We obviously have a number at the state level, but we're doing some at the local level, as you've organized with Cape Fear. We've got an international fair coming up with our diversity group. And I think these are the things that everybody can be involved in. And, you just have to look into your local association.
Yeah, and if your association doesn't currently have a global committee, we want you to reach out to NC Realtors Global, because we'd be happy to help share any resources and discuss ways to build awareness within your local association. I can remember that when we first started the NC Realtors Global, and Raleigh Regional was the only local global council, and it was a highly successful global council that we had. I joined it and drove up for their meetings from Wilmington, just so that I could get a greater understanding from an association standpoint of the programming that it potentially could be. So reach out, find a source. If you don't have an area that you can go to, reach out to us and we'd love to connect you.
Absolutely. I totally agree, Tony. I mean, the goal here isn't to become an international expert overnight. You're not going to. There's too many places in the world, too many people with too many cultural differences to learn all of them. But it is more about becoming more informed and better prepared to serve today's client, to really help your client and those clients who are going to come knocking at your door.
I absolutely agree. I think that the more education you get and the more engaged you get, the more aware you are of that type of business and that type of client that could be at your back door. And so bottom line, get engaged. It's so important. Now, before we wrap up, if someone wanted to get involved in the global real estate space, what would you recommend, Renzo?
I would recommend a good place to start would be the Certified International Property Specialist, or CIPS. We have an upcoming course in August at the state level, but I would highly recommend that. That's a great course. It highlights different countries and parts of the world. It provides a strong foundation for working with international clients and understanding of cross-border transactions. Let me tell you, when you do a cross-border transaction, there's nothing like going through it. There's things you don't even know. sometimes even if you do know a country, there's things you'll come across that you had no idea about. And I think that the CIPS is a great designation to earn. And that course, again, is between August 3rd and August 12th. And there's different parts to that course, but it's making it very accessible for our members to build those skills and expand their business opportunities. And registration is now open at the NCR educational website page. So please go ahead and, if you're interested, look it up, see what you think.
That is a fantastic institute. The CIPS, I remember taking that before North Carolina even had it. It wasn't until maybe I was thinking that it might have been 2020. I can't remember the year that we first brought it to North Carolina. Many of us that had it prior to that, we had to go out of the state to be able to get the education. But now we're so glad that our local associations and our state association really believe in this educational component, and they've been offering it, and it really does take your awareness to the next level. So if anybody is suggesting or thinking that you need to get into this world, both commercial and residential, you need to dive into this course, this institute, because it is fantastic. So Renzo, in addition to the CIPS, if you're looking at global education or courses that are offered from the National Association that really fit into the global arena, there's three. You mentioned the CIPS, which is key, but the other ones that are primary are At Home with Diversity. It shows the complexity of the dynamic makeup of our communities across the United States and even the globe. So I would absolutely recommend that course, and the Green designation. We found that our counterparts abroad in international companies are really focused on sustainability, green techniques. They're changing a lot of policy in some of their cities and countries. And so the green designation usually is something that international people ask us about. So if you're thinking about taking that, that would be a good source also. So I would recommend you, like you said, CIPS, the At Home with Diversity, and the green designation. So Renzo, this is a great discussion today. I want to thank you for your perspective and, of course, your experience.
Thank you, Tony. It's exciting to be part of the NC Realtors Global Committee. And I really have enjoyed all the time and opportunities that it's brought for me personally. And I certainly want to continue growing them over time, both at a state level and a local level. And I would recommend it to everybody else as well.
And I want to thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate you listening and hope that this conversation is going to highlight the importance of getting involved at the local level and understanding the global influences that do shape our community. We also encourage you to connect with your local association's global committee, network, or council. Visit the NC Realtors Global Facebook page, and of course, explore resources available on the NC Realtors Global webpage. If you have questions or would like to learn more about NC Realtors Global, we ask that you reach out to our global staff liaison, our fantastic Angela Burgess. And we thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you so much, Tony and Renzo, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. As we wrap up today's episode, I'd like to highlight one of the opportunities discussed during today's conversation, the Certified International Property Specialist, or CIPS designation. NC Realtors is partnering with local associations across the state to offer a virtual CIPS Institute from August 3rd through August 12th. If you're looking to expand your global real estate knowledge and better understand the trends shaping today's marketplace, this is a great opportunity to do just that. For just $350, you'll receive 5 days of virtual instruction covering global real estate fundamentals, transaction tools, and international markets across the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, while working toward one of the most recognized designations in global real estate. Registration is now open through NC Realtors. Visit the NC Realtors website to learn more and reserve your spot.
Thanks for listening to NC Realtors Redefined. Be sure to never miss an episode by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud.